everyone, welcome to Realtor Real Talk. It's Jennifer Higgins.
Jessica Warren with the Jazz Hands
Jazz
again.
Hands! Today we are going to talk about a different kind of time frames. These are going to be our contractual time frames. When you get into escrow, what's written on the contract, what you have to do, what hoops you have to jump through, all that fun stuff.
Down even as much as your earnest money deposit.
Yeah.
Like, how long does it take that you have to get that in?
Okay, tell them.
3 days.
Yep.
Like you have 3 days. So don't let the other agent hound your agent the day after you open, like, where's that deposit? Because you technically have 3 days to get that deposit in. So.
And how does it say on the contract that deposit can be brought in?
Cashier's check or wire.
And the reason for that, and one of the big hot button issues recently is actually wire fraud. So be very careful who you're getting that email from with the wiring instructions, that it is the company. Always call your agent. Your agent can verify all that information for you and make sure that everybody's on the same page and that you're not getting duped, because unfortunately that is something that can happen.
And I've seen a lot recently that escrow companies are requiring them to call right before they send the wire to make sure that the information that they do have is absolutely correct.
Right.
So, which is also just another step in being safe, because wire fraud is very huge.
Okay, so they got your money, you got your contract. Next step, inspection. You actually have 17 days to do your inspection on the property. And that is huge. And even if somebody is a contractor, even if they know everything about a property, you don't know what's wrong with the property until you do a home inspection.
Absolutely. That's very true. And I would even go as far as saying, if they just refuse to do a home inspection, that I would just pay for it, because you would hate to see something happen at the end of escrow. It's closed and then your sewer blows up. But you never know.
Right.
And then they're mad at you because you're the face of the transaction. So I would just spend that $350 for whatever it is, $400, and just pay for it. And just be like, no, we're getting a home inspection. End of discussion.
And how big is a home inspection typically?
What do you mean, how big?
The PDF file that we get.
Oh, they're in a folder.
Yeah.
They're huge.
And how much do they typically cost?
Well, it depends on the size of the property. Between $325 to $400, $450 in some cases. It all depends on the size of the property, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours to complete.
Right.
As well.
A good inspector is going to take their time. You're going to be able to get something in writing so that you can look at the pictures and really understand what they're talking about. Because if you're not in construction, you may not know what all these terms are on a home. So if there's a picture that shows you there's a crack, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So everything that comes on your home inspection, seller has to take care of that, right?
No.
Exactly.
No. My biggest pet peeve is the water pressure regulator. Just stop with the water pressure regulator.
So the water pressure regulator, there's a certain amount of PSI that you're supposed to get into your home. They always call it out on inspection. That's why we're a little frustrated. I just got one today and I called it out. So I call it a honey-do list. Unless that is health and safety and absolutely should be taken care of,
Yes.
It's a honey-do list. It's just letting you know about your property. It's not these things the seller has to do. The seller doesn't even have to respond.
No.
They have no obligation whatsoever to do them. It's just to protect yourself.
Yep.
All right, so after inspection we have,
Appraisal.
yeah, that one. Talk about that one.
Well, the buyer is not really involved in the appraisal, besides the fact that they pay for it. But the appraisal is to make sure that you're in contract for what the appraised value is on that home, and that's what the appraiser is for. He or she is to go and run the comps in the area, make sure that your house also have the safety and health issues, or their compliance with
Right.
like carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors. That all has to be in place. Your water heater has to be double strapped. They're going to check for those things. And appraisals are different. You have conventional, you have FHA, you have VA, you even have USDA. So it's all different. That should be a whole nother topic, honestly. But you have your appraisal. Let's just say your appraisal comes in at value. Everybody's good to go.
Just a little disclaimer, you definitely want to make sure those smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are in. If they're not and the seller doesn't comply, it's a $100 $100 charge, 100 to 150 for them to come back out and just make sure they're there. So make sure that everybody's on board and communicating and it's done before they have to go out.
Absolutely.
So you got your appraisal, you got your inspection. You've actually also, by this point, 7 days after you're in escrow, you're supposed to get all of the disclosures from the seller.
Yes.
And so that'll be everything that's ever happened to the home. I mean, it's a really thorough checklist to make sure that everything's taken care of. And you review that and make sure you're still okay with the property.
Yeah, because you have the opportunity to cancel still. And then what's the 21 day?
At 21 days, you better be loan approved, because that's when we're gonna come and be like, hey, remove your contingencies. What contingencies are your appraisal, your inspection, reviewing the disclosures, and making sure that you get loan approved. When you remove them, that's when your deposit, say it's $5,000, $1,000, $10,000, it could be taken. Because if you've already gone through that point, those are all of your protections to make sure the home is right for you. If you remove those protections, then it's now protecting the seller.
Yep.
So say you get all the way through escrow, you just change your mind. That's not how it works. You had this time, you had these protections so that you can make sure to get taken care of.
And they can definitely take that deposit.
Yeah, so on day 21, you're done, you're ready, you've removed your contingencies, and now you're moving forward. And it all depends on how many days that you ask for your escrow to be. Typically 30, 45, sometimes 60, but 30 to 45 is most common.
I see 30 more than anything.
And then your very last check before you close is,
Oh, the VP, yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, we did everything. Your final walkthrough. Well, mainly because, first of all, you want to make sure that they didn't destroy the house, they didn't take countertops off or whatever, and make sure that if you did agree to do some repairs, that those repairs were in fact completed.
exactly. So that's all you're basically checking it's the same house. They haven't had any flooding, they haven't had any issues, and you're able to move forward and close. And you're super excited, but still it's gonna be a couple days. So just always, again, communicate. But this has been an absolute run through of everything on the timelines that is really important.
Yes.
So thank you again for tuning in and for listening to us about Realtor Real Talk. I'm Jennifer Higgins.
Jessica Warren.
And Jess Hands.